Welcome to Sunday School. You know, God do great things in our lives over and over and over again. And yet, sometimes we still doubt. So what is doubt? Why do we do it? And how can we change it? Let's find out today on Sunday School. You know, God blesses our life over and over and over again. And still sometimes we doubt. So this morning we're going to be looking at the subject, why do you doubt? We're looking at Matthew chapter 14, verses 22 through 33. Now it starts at the 22nd verse, but let's take a quick look back to see how do we get to this point. Now, hearing the news that John the Baptist had been put in prison and been executed, Jesus needed to go to a deserted place, a desert place. And when he did, the crowd followed him. Now, being Jesus, he did what he normally would do. He ministered to them. He healed their sick and so on. And then as the time went by, the disciples got ready to send the crowd away. They told Jesus, let's send the crowd away back down to the villages so they can buy them something to eat. So Jesus said, no, let's give them something to eat. You feed them. But the disciples, they explained to him that we only had 5 loaves and 2 fish. So Jesus said, bring that to me. So he blessed it, and he fed the 5,000. So this was the miracle of the 5,000. So I'm sure with ministering to this large crowd, I'm pretty sure that some virtue came out of him. We can remember when Jesus was coming through town, and the lady with the issue of blood touched the hem of his garment, and the virtue flowed out of him. So now we're talking about dealing with 5,000 plus people. So I'm sure some virtue came out of Jesus. So now the time was far spent. It's time to get the crowd away and get the disciples away. So now we're in verse 22. And it said, and straightway Jesus constrained his disciples to get into a ship and to go before him unto the other side, while he sent the multitude away. So it was necessary that the disciples get away, and it's necessary that Jesus took care of the multitude. Verse 23 said, and when he had sent the multitudes away, he went up into a mountain apart to pray. And when the evening was come, he was there alone. Now, after fulfilling the needs of the multitude, both spiritual soul and natural soul, Jesus went up the mountainside apart to pray. Now, the Bible don't tell us everything that Jesus said during his time on earth, and it don't tell us everything that he did, because the Bible can't contain all the things that he has done. But I believe that every miracle that took place, Jesus has spent time with the Father. So it's the same with us. Our future miracle is when we get along apart with the Father. So now it says that, and when the evening was come, he was there alone. Now the Jews divided the evenings into 2 parts. The first part was at sunset. And the second part of the evening was after the sun had went down, when it was completely dark. And I believe Jesus was in this second evening after it had got dark. So he was there alone. Now, verse 24, it said, but the ship was now in the midst of the sea, tossed with waves, for the wind was contrary. So now the disciples, now they are out in a ship in a storm. No, they've been in a storm before, but this time Jesus is not on the ship with them. So they're out, they're in a storm, but this is not ordinary storm. As we look at verse 25, we'll find out this is not an ordinary storm. In verse 25, it said, and in the fourth watch of the night, Jesus went unto them, walking on the sea. In the fourth watch. Now this fourth watch, now the Jews set up 8 watches to a day. 8 watches to a day. And this fourth watch was between the times of 3 a.m. and 6 a.m. in the morning, while it was still dark. And this fourth watch was also a time of satanic and demonic activities. See, these demons that had their assignment, whatever assignment was given to them, had went out, did their assignments. Now they were on their way back to their base or to their post. So in coming back, some came back through the airwaves there, and some went back into the deep. So therefore, the storm was there because the wind was chaotic, the waves were chaotic because of the demonic activity that was going on. Now this fourth watch was also believed to be the time that the people of Israel, the Jews, had left Egypt and got freed. This was during the same time, during the fourth watch. But this demonic storm didn't bother Jesus at all. In the midst of this storm, there he is walking on the sea, headed toward the disciples. So it said, in the fourth watch of the night, Jesus went unto them walking on the sea. So the storm had no effect on him because there's no fear in him and there's no doubt in him. Now look at verse 26. 26 says, and when the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were troubled, saying, it's a spirit. And they cried out for fear. Now, being afraid of the storm and the knowledge of satanic activity that was going on, which I believe that they had knowledge of this, and this also contributed to their thoughts or their decision that this was a spirit. The disciple was stunned to see the image of a man walking on the sea. Of course, they never seen anything like this. They don't know anybody that had done this. And most likely, they even doubted that Jesus himself would be able to do this. So their trouble, which means that they are worried, they had some anxiety about the situation that they were in. And that anxiety led to their fear. Now, fear is an unpleasant emotion caused by the belief that something or someone is a danger or a threat to you that may cause you harm or suffering. So this led to their doubt. So this was the beginning of doubt. Now, doubt is a feeling of uncertainty. And it's connected with words like unsureness, indecision, hesitation, unbelief, and faithless. All these words are grouped in with doubt. So now they're troubled and they're fearful. So they cry out for help. So when we look at the next verse, it said, but straightway Jesus spake unto them, saying, be of good cheer. It is I. Be not afraid. As they cried out for fear, I want to say that they put themselves back into the unknown. See, when I say the unknown and the known, I'm talking about the unknown meaning out of connection with God, and the known mean in connection with God. We remember back when when Jesus fed the 5,000, they was in connection with God. And now that they're on the ship, in the storm, they get out of connection with God because of the fear and the doubt. So now they cry out of fear. But Jesus straightway spake to them, saying, be of good cheer, it is I, be not afraid. Now, it's good how Jesus always comes to comfort us in our time of distress. And the disciples was in distress. So he immediately answered them to bring peace, to bring comfort to them. So he said, it is I. Now this, it is I, can be referenced back to when God and Moses had a conversation. Moses said, God, when I go to Egypt and tell them to let my people go, who shall I say sent me? And God said, tell them I am has sent you. So when Jesus said, it is I, it was the same as saying, I am is with you. So now, Peter then answered him. This is verse 28. And Peter answered him and said, Lord. Now Peter know and understand that it is Jesus by what Jesus has said. It is I. Be of good courage. Be not afraid. Now Peter knows that it's the Lord because he called him Lord. He said, he answered him and said, Lord, if it be thou, bid me come unto thee on the water. Now it sounds like Peter is making a small remark or saying, Lord, if it be thou, or if you are who you say you are, bid me to come on the water. But no, it's not like that. When Peter said, if it be thou, it's translated as, since it is you. So he said, Lord, since it is you, you bid me to come to you on the water. See, Peter understood something. If Jesus bid him to come on the water, then he knew that he would be able to get out of the boat, step down on the water, and walk to Jesus and defy the laws of nature because Jesus had spoken. But see, he didn't get ahead of himself. Once he recognized who Jesus was, he waited for Jesus' command. So when Jesus said, come, he knew that it was a done deal. So now here's Peter about to get out of the boat and walk on the water. Remember, the boat with the other 10 disciples on it, they are in the unknown, out of connection because of the fear and the doubt. Now, verse 29, it said, and he said, come. And when Peter was come down out of the ship, he walked on the water to go to Jesus. He walked on the water to go to Jesus. So, Peter gets out of the boat, out of the unknown, when Jesus said, come. Step out of the boat, get on the water, and go toward Jesus. But something is about to change right here. Something is about to change. It said in verse 30, it said, but when he saw the wind boisterous, he was afraid, and beginning to sink, he cried, saying, Lord, save me. So, now the wind was already boisterous before Peter got out of the boat. Remember, the wind was already boisterous and the wave was already dashing. But when Jesus gave him the command to go, then he went. But something happened when he got in the water and looked at the waves and the wind again. He was afraid. Now, he wasn't afraid when Jesus called him. This was because his focus was on Jesus. His focus was on Jesus. Anytime that we get our focus off Jesus, we're going to slip back into the unknown, back into the fear, back into the doubt. You know, back up in the 29th verse, if we skip that, back up in the 29th verse, Jesus told him to come. Now, Jesus told him to come, and he granted his request by saying come. But not only by saying come, when he told him to come, he delegated power to Peter to be able to come down and to walk on the water. And this wasn't the first time that Jesus delegated power to the disciples. He delegated power to them when he sent them out 2 by 2. And he delegated power when they came back and they were so excited that all the demons were subject to them. Now he also delegate powers to us. In Luke chapter 10, verse 19, he said, "Behold, I give you power to tread upon serpents and scorpions." So he gives delegated powers to us too. So Peter steps out of the boat, out of the unknown, into the known, connects back up with Jesus. So when we come back down and we talk about when Peter looked and he saw the wind bolstering and the wave broke, he was afraid. Therefore, when he looked back and he saw this, Peter remembered why he was afraid in the first place. Because fear, no matter how you're walking with the Lord, if you fall into fear, fear will sink you. Now, sometimes what we see can determine whether we're going to doubt or whether we're going to increase our faith. See, we can see a poster on the bulletin board that says, as of tomorrow morning, we're going to lay off 15 employees. And you can start to doubt and say, well, I haven't been here but 2 or 3 years, so I doubt if they keep me on. Or they're better acquainted with these group of guys, so I doubt if they keep me on. But you can see that same poster and say, well, they're going to lay off 15 employees tomorrow morning. But I won't be one of them because God put me here and I have the favor of God in my life. So 15 might go, but it won't be me. So what we see sometimes can cause us to doubt or cause our faith to increase. So when Peter saw this, he fell back in his mind to why he was fearful in the first place. Because fear will sink us. Now when we get to verse 31, it said, "And immediately Jesus stretched forth his hand and caught him. When Peter began to sink, he cried out, 'Lord, save me.' And the Bible said immediately Jesus stretched forth his hand." Now we talked about doubt and we talked about some words that doubt was connected with, like unsureness, indecision, hesitation. But we look in this 31st verse, it said Jesus immediately stretched forth his hand and caught him. There was no indecision. There was no hesitation. There was no unsureness about what Jesus was about to do. And it also tells us something else about this walk that Peter had on the water. He had walked a good bit because all Jesus had to do was stretch forth his hand. So Peter had walked a good little bit. So when he stretched forth his hand and caught Peter and brought him back up, he said to Peter, "O thou of little faith, wherefore didst thou doubt?" In other words, he was saying, Peter, you was almost there. Peter, you had already done the hard thing. Peter, when the wind was blowing and the wave was dashing, you pushed up enough courage to get out of the boat, to step on the water and walk on the water. You was almost here. Why did you doubt? You know, Jesus says the same things to us. Why do we doubt? We've already believed the hard thing. We've already done the hard thing. So what is the hard thing? You know, we believe that there's this big God up in heaven that we never seen. We believe that. And we believe that he had a son named Jesus. And we believe that he sent his son down to be born of a woman, of course, one that knew no man. We believe that. And we believe that he grew up and he was placed on a cross. And he died on the cross. We believe that. We believe that he was placed in a borrowed tomb. We believe that. We believe that he went into the underworld and took the keys from Satan. We believe that. We believe that he rose again on the third day. We believe that. And we believe that even though people was around, people saw him and a cloud came and took him back up to heaven. We believe that. And we believe that he's sitting on the right hand of the Father. And we believe that same Jesus is coming back again to get us. We believe that. We've already believed the hard thing. So God now just wants us to follow. So it says, and when they were come into the ship, the wind ceased. The wind ceased. The God of peace, the God of comfort, had come into the ship. And where the God of peace and the God of comfort is, fear and doubt has to leave. The storm ceased. The fear and the doubt of the other disciples that was in the boat, it all left because Jesus was there. And now they're not in the unknown anymore. They're back in the known, back in the fellowship with Jesus. Now the last verse says, and then they that were in the ship came and worshiped him, saying, of a truth, thou art the Son of God. After all this, after all they have seen before this, they see this and they say, of a truth, thou art the Son of God. How many more miracles? How many more healings, deliverance? How many more ways made, doors open? How much more do he have to do before we can stand and say, truly, of a truth, thou art the Son of God? What is doubt? Doubt is a feeling of uncertainty, connected with unsureness, indecision, faithless, unbelief, hesitation. Why do we do it? The main reason we doubt is because of fear. Fear of the past, fear of bad experiences, fear of the future, things that we can't control. How can we change it? There are 3 simple ways that we can change the doubt in our life. First of all, confession. The Bible says if we confess our faults or sins to him, he is just and he is willing to forgive us and to cleanse us from all unrighteousness. But first we have to confess and admit that we are in a state of doubt. Number 2, reconstruction. The Bible says, let this mind be in you, which was also in Christ Jesus. Well, what kind of mind are we talking about? We're talking about the kind of mind that think on the things that are lovely, on the things that are kind of things that are good report. If it being in virtue, being in praise, think on these things. Because bad thoughts, bad ideas, bad situations will cause doubt in your life. And number 3, stay in the known. Now, we all been in the unknown because we were sinners. But Jesus came and paid the ultimate sacrifice. And now we enjoy the glorious life that we live in him today. So, we already done the hard thing. Let's trust him for the simple things in life. Our home, our finances, our clothing, our children. Sometimes our blessings are right at the door, but doubt hinders it. We ask God, God, how long? Where's my blessing? And God says, how long will you doubt? And will you not trust me? The example of Peter walking on the water is a learning experience for us. Let's not doubt and not receive our blessing. But let's believe for all that he has for us, both spiritually and naturally so. So, why should we doubt when we have a God that hears and answers our cry? When we have a God that supplies our every need? When we have a God that gives us new mercies every morning? let this be the day that we say, of a truth, thou art the Son of God. I'm Elder Robert Wilson, and this has been Sunday School.